11 spiritual values have been given to us that, when applied, bring greater personal harmony, peace, and happiness. In this episode, we pick up the conversation with Ian and Pearl Rogers as they break down each value to help us apply them in our everyday lives. They reveal how these values are the secret to increasing energy on Earth, and they take the guesswork out of unconditional love. And who wouldn't want that? Enjoy.
If you adopt into your life, Carla, the 11 values, and you set an example to others, and you bring those into your home, and people bring them into their children, into their parenting, into their teaching, into their living, the people who are ready to, and by ready I mean the people who are at an evolution that they want to have a belief and look for something outside of self to guide them, they will start to look. They will start to question. They will start to follow. So it's one step follows the other. But for those who find they want to grow in love, they want to grow in understanding, they want to feel connected to spirit, they want to be able to wake up in the morning and go to bed at night and know that there is somebody there who's got their back, and that is the spirit in the spirit world, that is the spiritual teacher in the spiritual world. This makes an immense change to people.
Under spiritual understanding, one of the overarching principles is reincarnation. That is to say, we've lived before, we'll live again. The problem with that is that we just don't live again. Things that we get wrong, we have to get right. That's called karma. Karma only happens in a different life, a later life. So therefore, part of the pre-existing conditions of your life are set up so that you can meet those karmatic conditions. That's part of that predetermination. And it's not happenstance. It's due to something you've done that you have to learn from a previous time, and that sets out the patterns of your life.
So how can you work out what your karma is?
Well, that's going to be very difficult for most people, except it'll be pretty clear to them, because what continues to confront them that they avoid and continues to go wrong is the thing they're meant to face. So,
and the thing they want to most avoid.
Avoid, exactly. We can't avoid our karma being there, we can avoid meeting it, which means we'll have to do it in another life again. There's no escape. That's the big spiritual thing, there's no escape. So karma means confronting the reality of our life and the conditions of our life until we can overcome them and move on to the next thing. That's what karma's about. If you don't confront the reality in the way your life's happened and what you're meant to learn from it and to move and grow, well then you're going to go pretty much nowhere.
And it's worth saying here too that animals do not have karma, because animals, we are taught, live only once. The animal comes once for a purpose, comes to an owner for a purpose, to teach, to give, whatever that owner, that family requires. And when they pass, they pass. And unlike a human, where that period of taking your last breath and actually arriving in the spirit world can be quite a lengthy period, with animals, they're there in seconds. They're in the spirit world in seconds, in a world that is separate to the human spirit world, but connected. But they simply take their last breath and bang, they're there.
So karma sounds quite complicated.
It's very, very, very complex.
Probably the most complicated spiritual topic there is.
Can you tell me about the value of spiritual growth, which is the application of the spiritual knowledge into your daily life?
So what we're saying, Carla, is the totality of those 11 values is to not just see it on a piece of paper, not just have it there in the fridge, but is to live it, try to live it, do your very best to live it in your daily existence every day. That means taking it into your relationships, taking it into your workplace. It is remembering all of those values and trying to apply them at every point in your life. And introspecting at the end of a day, at the end of a week, How did I go? Where did I fall down? And we all do fall down. We're human beings. We're not perfect. We will never get it 100% perfect because we are human beings and we've got all those mixtures of emotions, of jealousy, envy, anger, hurt, all of those emotional issues working at the same time. But it is always striving to understand what emotion is driving your action and what is the purest action in line with those values that you can take on a daily basis. That will determine your growth.
In terms of spiritual growth, no matter how much money you make, no matter how many people you employ, no matter what new piece of technology you create, that won't add to the earth anywhere near as much as a person who tries to live to be a better person through the application of values.
And therefore shows an example to someone who's watching.
So really, it's even if we just stopped at number 2, that would make a big difference.
A big difference to earth.
And so it's just even a matter of just taking some time out weekly to think about how you've contributed, how you're feeling, what you're doing.
And it's when you've behaved really badly. You know, you've been mean, you've been nasty, and we've all done that. I've done that in the past. I would hope little today, but we've all done that. It is stopping and saying, okay, what caused me to do that? Why did I do it? I didn't like myself when I did that. I'm not proud of myself when I did that. And certainly in my lifetime, in the younger years of my lifetime, I've done things that I'm not proud of today. But I understand why I did them. And they were misplaced emotions at that point in time in my development, in this lifetime. It is understanding, so that through the understanding, you're never going to repeat it again. You're going to say, okay, I can take a different action if I start to feel that emotion again. I don't have to behave in a negative and nasty way that I've previously done.
And would it be fair to say then this is why the both of you have decided to document your knowledge and actions to help people with the spiritual
There has
growth?
to be a record for posterity. There has to be. See, one of the problems that went wrong in the time of Jesus is that his work was diluted.
Called a miracle.
Yes, politicised or religionised. And what we can't afford is for our work to be diluted. So the best way to not have it diluted is to do this. So there's a record for posterity.
You see, when people say what Jesus did was a miracle, then it's automatically assumed, well, we as men can't do that because we're not Jesus and we can't perform miracles like Jesus did. But when we start today through the spiritual renaissance to understand that Jesus did not perform any miracles, he did the job he was capable of doing through his evolution. He was able to take actions that, no, we're not able to do today, but we can go some way towards learning to work with energy, which was 100% what Jesus did, was work with energy.
Through your knowledge and the practical advice, is it trying to empower people to also do their job meant to do?
Hopefully it'll get to that.
Yep.
But maybe if it causes them to reflect and to understand what's going on in the world and there is a solution.
So what you're saying is the way we contribute to a better world is by committing to our personal growth.
Number 3 is equality. And interestingly, what that says is that a recognition that all people have equal worth. The key in that is worth. Because equality by itself can be a misnomer. We're not equal because we have different evolution. And I'm not talking about our strated position in society. That by itself is false. Because that's only there so you can learn certain things or abuse or not abuse your power. But as entities, we're different because we know different things. Otherwise, how could 2 children from the same family be so different? Because they have a different background before this life. What the problem is that all of the wrongs of earth, the abuses of each other, is because there's a lack of acceptance that everyone has equal worth. Why would we by force take the land of someone else. They're worthy of that land. They're worthy of being able to live under whatever rule they choose to live by. We don't do that. That's on a big scale. On a little scale, we steal from people. We hurt people. We do all sorts of things to minimise them because they're not as important as us. That defies that we have equal worth. Each one of these by themselves would change the world if only one of them was used.
So how, with equality, how do you clock yourself because I would think that I would believe in equality, but I'm sure hearing what you say, I'm sure I bump up against it daily if I'm being honest. So how would I check in about that?
I explain to the students that I deal with that we're talking mostly about equality of opportunity. Let's say you have 3 children in your family, and one of them, as they grow and leave school, says, I want to be a doctor.
Yep.
Yeah. And their grades might determine and inform you that they probably don't have the academic ability to become a doctor. But they can go and sit a test to determine whether they will be accepted into university to study medicine or not. They should have the opportunity to do that.
Okay. The opportunity to try.
The opportunity to try. And then when they fail, they come to the realization, I don't have the capability of doing this. So I now must put my energy and thoughts into doing something else. Yeah, but it is that equality of opportunity that is so important across the board.
Oh, that brings such clarity, making something that is often a complex and hot topic practical.
When someone goes in to get a coffee, the coffee maker, they treat as equal worth because they're desperate for a coffee. They might or might not speak to them well, and if they don't, that's a lack of equality. But if they meet the coffee maker at a party and they believe that they're all of a certain social strata and this person says, I make your coffee, more likely than not they're going to treat them as less than equal. But the coffee maker's gift is not because of how they mix a coffee, that's fairly standard, but it's how they interact with you. Okay. And that's not seen and that's not valued, and that should be valued.
As part of the spiritual renaissance, this ties in beautifully with the concept of unity.
And it is very much the equality of ethnicity as well,
across the board.
Absolutely across the board. It doesn't matter what colour, what creed, what religion, what belief system someone has, they are equal to you in this country or any other country.
Tell me about accountability.
Accountable means that every action, every word that you speak has a reaction to some other person or some other thing. Some other thing meaning environment, a tree, a flower, the lawn, the land, whatever. We are accountable for the actions we take. It has a reaction from something else. Therefore, we must be responsible for our actions.
So that's reinforcing that we're all connected.
Yes.
And it's that ripple-on effect.
Yes.
Okay.
Stop blaming when actually the fault may be your own. Stop blaming someone else. Take accountability for what you caused.
That's a big one. I think that will be the take-home for for that value.
Yes, and that, of course, is what leads to so much anger. So much anger comes from blaming. It wasn't my fault, that's not fair, that's unjust. Therefore, I'm entitled to be angry.
So stop playing the blame game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. It's really like holding up a mirror to yourself with honesty, which brings us to judgment.
Judgment is probably the bane of society. And judgment is where we form a belief that someone doesn't have the same beliefs or values as myself, they're less than. So we become critical of them. They have to believe and do what I do, so we're taking from them their choice. Having said that, judgment is very confused and it's not well understood. We're entitled to make observations. That person has done that thing. That's an observation of fact. It's only if we add it on the end, and because they did that, they're an awful person. That's the judgment. Repeating or stating a fact or something that you've observed is not by itself a judgment. It's because I wouldn't do that, they're awful. That's the judgment. So if we wanted to change the way we interact with people, we would judge less. We can't not judge because we've been taught to judge from birth, because we were judged from birth. We're good if our parents tell us we're good. So then it goes on. So judgment is a problem. You can't stop it, but you can reduce it.
It's worth adding there too that you can judge for yourself, nothing else. And what that means is, let's assume, Carla, you've had a friend from school years, and that friend has commenced a drug habit in the past 12 months and is encouraging you to join them and participate in party drugs as well. You are permitted to judge for yourself, and that judgment would take the form of, do I want to continue my friendship with this person? Does it benefit me? Does it aid my growth? Does it help me live my values? Or do I need to end this friendship? You would then make the judgment of what's the best call
For yourself.
For yourself.
So reducing judgment should increase your ability to be yourself, a stronger form, a stronger self-identity, which leads us into the value of sharing energy.
Sharing energy. And that is just understanding that we're all connected. Everything in the environment, everything in the animal kingdom, everything with human beings, we are all connected, not just on Earth, but the entire universe. Yeah? Everything is one. Everything borrows from a place and gives to a place. If we take from a place, we have to give back to a place. We have to understand this, that all that we do is connected.
So it sounds like, even from a sharing energy, that all the values are nearly like a big Venn diagram, because sharing energy sounds like it's connected to a quality which is connected to spiritual growth.
Yes, they're all interconnected.
Okay.
You can't do one without needing to do the others.
Okay. I can see it's becoming clear how it becomes a way of life.
Oh, yes.
I see.
And not the easiest way of life.
No.
Just the truest. The next one is ego, and that's a belief that others are less than you. They exist for your benefit. Everyone has an ego, and ego's fine in many respects because it allows us to achieve a lot of things, but not where we achieve at the cost of others. Ego makes it, in someone's mind, acceptable to tread on someone else because I'm more important.
And you're there to give to me.
Yes.
And ego and judgment are the two most difficult ones for students of our organisation to understand. It causes a lot of confusion.
So where is ego good?
Ego's good if you have a self-belief in yourself and you're doing something to the benefit of mankind. And you are very determined in saying to yourself, I'm capable of doing this, I will do this, and the outcome to mankind is this. Then ego is positive.
But a lot of people, it sounds like we would tip over into the wrong side of ego that would affect the trait of also equality.
Fear. Fear is the next one. And fear is quite simply, short and simple, indecisive over the outcome to some action a person is going to take. For instance, a person is in a job, and this is a common one. They're in a job, they don't like the job, they're not fulfilled in the job, they actually wake up in almost a panic attack because they have to go to the job, but they're saying to themselves, I can't leave this job because how am I going to pay my mortgage? Will I get another job? What will I do? That is the fear of an outcome, rather than a belief that you're supported. There is a whole lot of entities around you helping you and guiding you to find the next job. It is very, very few people, a minority of statistics of people who are meant to be homeless and meant to be living with little on the street. Yeah, and if they are, that's generally for a karmatic purpose too.
So using that example, it's the courage to believe in yourself and take action rather than being stuck in the fear.
And the courage in your spiritual guide to say, lead me to the next one.
Trusting that your courageous action will move you forward.
In terms of spiritual growth, honesty is the most important. We measure a person's evolution and spirituality on their ability to be honest. And honest is the ability to express your truth. And it includes, but is certainly not limited to, I have found $1, and therefore I'll go and find the owner of the dollar. Honesty is probably the most avoided and fearful thing that's prevalent on earth. And if we could teach people to be honest, it would be a much better place. And Crazy Horse says there should be no adjective before truth. There's not blunt truth. There's not little truth. There's truth or no truth. And that's where people say, that's too blunt. That's too hard. Not if it's the truth. The truth is the truth. And if we take it back to his time, he says the breakdown of every attempt to negotiate or have treaties with the white man is because the white man was never honest. And so he said you can't negotiate or deal with someone who's not honest. You end up having to fight, all because you can't believe what they're telling you. Honesty is everything, and in everything that Pearl teaches and everything that I teach, the cornerstone is honesty. People won't always like honesty, but you can't put an adjective to it. It's just the truth.
You know, honesty starts, Carla, with even the most simple thing of you buy a new dress and you put it on, you show your partner, and you say, oh, what do you think of this, honey? And he's standing there thinking, you look hideous. It's awful. But he says, oh, you look wonderful, darling. That dress is super. Absolute implied dishonesty. You know, what prevents a partner from saying, you know what, Carla, it doesn't suit you. It doesn't favour you in any way. I have certainly bought dresses and said to Ian, we try to be as honest as we know how with each other, and I've certainly bought dresses and said, hey, what do you think of this? Because I thought it was super, and he's gone, it's awful. Yeah. And, you know, you're very upset at that point in time, and you get a bit huffed and puffed about it, but that dress comes off and either goes back to the shop or you give it to the charity and never wear it again. And you appreciate that.
What about, though, when people are being honest and sometimes trying to deliberately hurt your feelings?
Yes, that's different. That's meanness.
Okay. So that's not what we're talking about.
Well, it's honesty for the purpose of meanness or revenge.
Can you still get away with saying, well, I was just being honest?
To a large degree you can, but it's done to hurt. Yeah. Honesty shouldn't be done to hurt. It should be to be honest. I'm not telling Pearl I don't like the dress to hurt her. Yeah. I just don't like the dress.
Yeah. And it doesn't suit you. Well, that's generally what Ian would say.
Yes.
It just doesn't suit you.
Yes.
I know what he's really saying is makes you fat.
Yeah. My partner is always just, I don't know why you even bought that. Why do you wear tents? And so with those sorts of outfits, I know not to ask him because I'm like, because it's comfy and I think it looks cute. He's just like, it's gross. I have no problem with honesty with my partner. Well, him towards me. Yeah. From a truth point of view, I was just thinking, what about when you think you're being honest, or it's what is truth?
Truth is speaking what you feel.
So if you think it's the truth, is that what if you've interpreted your feeling?
As long as you believe what you give at the time, and it's positive and it's true to what you're feeling, you may discover the next day or a week later that, you know, that really wasn't the truth. What I really felt was this. And you go back and you say that to whoever. You know, I believed this is what I felt at the time, but now that I've had time to think about it and to feel more, it actually wasn't right. This is what I truly feel.
Because I assume that's where growth comes. I look back at things that I would have said I've done it years ago and thought I was being truthful.
Oh, yes.
But then you learn.
I look back today at actions that I've taken years and years ago and say to myself, how could I be so silly? How could I be so stupid to have made that decision? Look, we make those decisions when we're hurt, when we're upset, when we're blaming, instead of taking accountability. And of course, we're growing up. We're growing up. Yeah. I'm looking at some actions I took in my 20s that weren't the best and probably did hurt people. But I was growing up. I was like everyone else. I was learning what was right, what was wrong. And you learn very quickly what's wrong because you feel the effect of it upon yourself. You don't feel good about it. You know when you take an action that is not for the right purpose, because you feel awful inside. You know instantly you've done the wrong thing.
And I suppose that just how you've been mentioning anger, I suppose if anger is there, you're not able to necessarily feel what you're really feeling to express the truth from there.
Yes, because you're in the blame, you're in the unjust, it's not fair.
It's a constant rebalancing of who you are through what you do. That would take a high level of self-belief. Pearl, can you tell us about the value of self-belief?
Self-belief, and that's the belief that you are worthy of giving yourself the opportunity to grow. Men are good at this in many ways and women are poor at it, because women take on a load of doing lots and lots and lots for the family and for everyone in the family and for other people, and leave themselves very depleted and very unhappy and very angry. So it is saying to everyone, man and woman, to learn to know when you need nourishment, when you need support, when you need help, to learn to be honest to ask for it, and to learn that if you are not able to do that for yourself, you're actually not giving very positivity or very much love to someone else, including all the members of your family.
I've never thought of self-belief like that, especially for women to be aware of that then. But you guys, you're pretty good at it.
They're better than women in my experience.
I'm not sure about that. We're certainly better at giving time to ourselves. Women are better once they make the decision at turning that time into growth.
I see.
Men more into leisure.
So we both have something to learn. Well, that leads us to the value of choice.
Choice is the right to make decisions concerning matters fundamental to your own growth. It was predetermined that I would meet Pearl. It had to be, and I should have the right to make the choice that I could follow that through. If we'd met at an earlier time in my life, for example at school, and she went to a school of one religion and I went to a school of another religion, which is what it was, then I would have been dissuaded from ever talking to her or having anything to do with her, because that was a different religion, and you don't cross-pollinate religions, because the one I was in was, according to their view, pure. So someone would have attempted to say, it's not your choice, she's of a different religion. But it is my choice, because that was fundamental to my growth and to my future. Yeah. So I have to have that right to make the mistake or make the right call.
That's a good one. Because I feel, as just from listening to you both speak today, a lot of choice appears to be taken away from us without us even recognising that it is.
Correct.
Right. And this is what the spiritual renaissance is actually all about, nearly giving you the choice to make a change.
See, Carla, one of the signs of a society that's in decay is a society that has too many rules and laws. And that typifies so-called advanced countries. But it's not the more so-called third world countries who have far less, but are much more spiritual.
Choice means you have a problem and you go to the doctor, and the doctor says, well, it's this and you need to take this drug. Choice is when you're able to say, thank you, doctor, for your opinion. I'm going to go away now. I'm going to do a little bit of research. I'm going to think about this, and if I need to come back to you, I will. Choice is when you make an informed decision what you want to do about that situation. Choice is everywhere. And if you just take a week in your life And you really examine, Carla, you really sit and say to yourself, where today did I have no choice in what I did? Where throughout this week have I taken actions because someone else is determined I have to take this action, and if I don't take this action, I'm going to be punished for it. I'm going to lose some benefit because of it. This is anathema to spiritual renaissance.
Wow. Our entire way of being then is set up that way.
Too many rules, dictatorial punishment. So it's taking away people's right to learn for themselves.
So the spiritual renaissance, this isn't going to just be an overnight thing. No. What you're proposing there is changing systems everywhere.
Yes. And we're not saying that society should become ruthless and everyone should run riot doing what they want to do. We certainly aren't saying that. Society needs some rules, they need some regulation, they need some guidance. There are people who genuinely are not able to make decisions or wise decisions for themselves and need some guidance and some regulation to do that. But today we have got to a ridiculous state where people are simply told how to live in every aspect of their life.
Rules in modern society have to be enforced to be adhered to. Yeah. Therefore, there's no social acceptance of them because they shouldn't need to have enforcement. There should be an agreement that that's necessary. Yeah. But there's not. So enforcement happens to enforce the will of the government at the pain of a fine or some sort of punishment. That's not how it was ever meant. But to get there, you have to actually trust the rule makers, of which the general populace has zero trust.
Which then takes us back to basically all of the previous values.
The spiritual renaissance is saying to every person, take some decision-making upon yourself. Trust in your own spirit that lives within you. Trust in your spiritual guide who everyone has. Start to place some trust. Start to just spend a few minutes with yourself each day sitting down quiet and feeling what you really feel and making a decision upon what you really feel. And take responsibility for the outcome of that. If your decision is a negative one and it hurts someone else or causes someone else a loss, then own that. Take responsibility, take accountability from it, and the benefit and the positive outcome from it is that you've learned something. And hopefully you've learned something that you will never repeat again. If people are listening to this and it makes an impression upon a certain person, it's because they want something to change in their life for the better. They're sitting there listening and they're saying, oh boy, this makes sense to me. And there's something in this that I want. There's something in this that I want to know more about.
So that ties everything together. The values are a guideline for growth, and that's growth in ourselves and in the world. As people take action, they will in turn inspire others. Thank you again so much. This is the Spiritual Renaissance.
Absolutely.
Yes, well said.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carla.